Level capital managers, Intel Capital, and a private equity fund manager focused on investment into technology-enabled business in Sub Saharan Africa. And together with Intel Capital's global investment and M&A organization, have announced that they will complete an expansion investment into leading provider of cloud-based software for mobile content discovery and delivery focused on the African continent. We're joining us now for an outlook on investment in the sector is Samuel Mensah Jnr, Director for Sub Saharan Africa at Intel Capital. Very warm welcome to you, Samuel.
Hi, good to be here.
Samuel, I would like us to jump right into it and first start off with some of the opportunities that you're seeing. We do know that you are operating in South Africa and in Ghana, and you were saying to me earlier on that your goal is actually the entire Sub-Saharan Africa. So just speak to us about some of the projects that you've started in Ghana. We do know that Ranked Capital has gained some kind of interest from you. So do tell us what your operations are looking like.
So Intel Capital is the investing arm of Intel. We have a global mandate. Every year we invest $500 million in technology companies globally. We look for leading innovations. We have 400 portfolio companies in 54 countries, including 2 African countries. Wherever we find innovation, whether it be in Germany or in Ghana, we will invest. In this particular instance, we are quite excited by the opportunity presented by mobile internet and the downstream opportunities such as content that will be required by Africans who are live and using the internet.
I wanted to ask you, Samuel, because and I'd said this to you earlier on, is that when we speak to entrepreneurs and we also speak to private equity investors, one of the things they say about investing on the African continent is that it's still quite difficult for the entrepreneur or the small business to be able to get that kind of investment. And you were talking about some of the challenges that you face as a venture capitalist on the continent. Just do highlight them, because I do think that it is quite important to be able to get insider view from the capital, from the investment side, some of the challenges that you're coming across.
Yeah, so I think that entrepreneurs historically have struggled to get funding for emerging technology companies. But I do think that that is changing. Over the last 3 years, we have actually developed in Africa what we can call a venture capital industry. There are probably about 15 funds with about $500 million available for investments looking to invest in technology startups across Africa. So I think that the situation is evolving for the better, and you will find as time goes on that it's becoming easier for technology entrepreneurs to raise funding for their companies. As far as the challenges go, there are a number of challenges that we as venture capital investors face when we're trying to execute transactions in Africa. One of these is just the absence of data. It is very difficult for us to know how big markets are, how fast they're growing, who the players are. There's just no research. So a lot of the time we are having to guesstimate. We know the opportunities are there, but it can be a bit tricky sometimes to try and nail that down.
But something else you highlighted, Samuel, was just that one of the things that you find operating on the African continent is some of the entrepreneurs, when it comes to making deals, that they don't seem to have that background or that experience that you would find in more developed economies, and the US coming to mind in Silicon Valley, for instance. So just speak to us about your role and what you're having to do, because you were saying that not only do you have to execute the deal, but you have to do the groundwork of actually educating the entrepreneurs of how the deal actually is formed.
Yes, that's true. In many more mature markets, we tend to find that entrepreneurs or members of management in startups tend to have worked in other startups before, and they generally have more of an idea about how a venture capital deal works and how a deal is structured. What we find in Africa is that for many entrepreneurs, this is their first real interaction with an investor. So in addition to having to do the deal or execute the transaction, we are also having to educate them and teach them how a deal is done. So this adds to the length of time and the difficulty of trying to invest in venture capital companies.
One of the things, I wanted to ask you about Ghana's Rancard, because that seems to be a software company. And one of the things I'd say to you earlier on is that Intel we know to be more than anything a hardware manufacturer. And you were saying that you do invest across the sector when it comes to technology. So just speak to us about what your interest in Rancard was.
So Intel is a hardware company. We are the largest manufacturer of microprocessors in the world. Our technology powers devices and powers the internet, the servers that run the internet. However, nobody goes out and buys a microprocessor. You buy a device, typically as part of a solution to do something that you want to achieve. So we recognize that people buy our products as part of a solution. And for these solutions to be required, you need strong ecosystems. You need strong software ecosystems, you need content, you need commerce, you need payment solutions, things for people to do with technology. And then as part of that, they will demand hardware. And that is why we invest beyond just hardware, although we are traditionally known for our hardware.
Samuel, I want to go back to your vision of really being a player on the entire Sub-Saharan Africa, not just in Ghana and South Africa, where you are right now. One of the things that you'd say to me is that it would be much easier probably for you to be able to do business if African economies were more integrated. Just speak to us a little bit about that, what you would like to see and what would make it a little more simpler for you to be able to operate in Sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah, this is a major challenge for all investors, not just the venture capital industry trying to do deals and make investments in Africa. What we tend to find is that the markets are very fragmented. We have 54 countries in Africa, 54 laws, lots of borders. It makes it very difficult to do transactions from one country to the next. In addition, it also increases the challenge of growing for young technology companies. We are looking to back companies that have got the ability to scale, to grow large. That's the story of venture capital. If you look at the Googles and the Facebooks, they all started out as very small companies, but they were able to scale across their borders and become large international companies. We're looking for the same from African technology companies. Companies with the capacity to scale across multiple countries. Unfortunately, the fragmentation in Africa makes it a lot more difficult for companies to be successful in growing across their borders.
Samuel, how much innovation are you seeing that's coming out of Africa? Because I know that in South Africa we're seeing some really amazing products that are coming from this country. Just speak to us about other countries and the kind of innovation that gets you excited and thinks that, you know, Africa is going to be a huge producer in this sector, not just a consumer.
Yes, we're seeing an increasing trend where very exciting innovations are coming out of Africa. You know, every morning I wake up and I'm not quite sure what new, interesting, exciting idea somebody is going to pitch to me. We're seeing a lot of innovation coming out of mobile, a lot of smart young Africans using their trading to devise products that are suited to their local environment. One such innovative product that I've come across recently is the use of mobile technology to fight drug counterfeiting. Every year in emerging markets, millions of people die because they are not able to get real drugs. They ingest fake medication. We're seeing apps where you have the capacity in your hand using your mobile phone. At the point of purchase of medication, you can actually check whether that medication is real or not. So this is an example of very localized problems that are being solved by Africans with local solutions.
That sounds really incredible. I wanted to talk a little bit about mobile because, I mean, you were talking about Rancard also, and you were talking about that being a huge interest for you because they're operating in that space. When you compare the African continent to other economies, for instance, do you think that we should be putting more emphasis into mobile than we would other devices?
In a way, I think we don't have much of a choice. There are 600 million Africans who have mobile phones. A lot of them use their mobile phones primarily to talk. But another 400 million of that 600 million are actually connected to the internet. And not only are they connected to the internet, but the mobile phone is the primary device through which they access the internet. Now, this creates a whole bunch of opportunities for e-commerce, for content provision, all kinds of business models that historically would not have worked. Now, all of a sudden, start to make sense because there's a critical mass of people with mobile phones connected to the internet that will need products that are developed locally and funded locally by venture capital organizations like ourselves.
Do you find that business is taking advantage of that? I'm not just talking about businesses like yours that are in the tech sector, but other businesses that can be capitalizing on the mobile space. Do you find that that's happening more and more, even when it comes to advertising and putting your product out there? Are businesses in Africa using it as effectively as they probably should be?
I think that historically the mobile phone has been used to talk. We're now getting into the next stage of the evolution of the use of the mobile device in Africa. And we're going to see other more innovative and creative applications, the consumption of content, the use of the mobile phone to make purchases. There will be a whole range of new usages. I talked about the use of the mobile phone in healthcare, in education. As time goes on, a lot more innovative solutions around mobile are being introduced into the marketplace.